64 feet that way, so it's 2304 square feet. And the garage doors are 18 wide by 10 high. 3 Pella windows over there. I chose those because they are the same brand, shape, and size that I have in my house. It's all metal siding. The doors are insulated. So I have 2 more garage doors here, same size and dimensions. And in the springtime, I might bump this out a little bit and build like a little retaining wall and give myself like another 5 feet so I can turn in a little bit more comfortably. But this is kind of what I have with the geography of the property. And the property is on 4 acres, so it goes all the way to the top of the hill and over a couple hundred yards. Will it look like the pictures?
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn on some lights. So most of this stuff is, you guys probably recognize from Matt's store. He helped me pick out these bend pack lifts just because they recess into those pockets. So once I get those put in there, I cast in some channels here for the hydraulic lines to run. And so that channel comes over here, pops up right there, and will come into this control panel.
Did they give you enough? Is there lines? Are the lines long enough?
No.
You have to make them?
Yep.
Yeah. It's cheap though. You just find a plate and you can make those easy.
Yeah. I contacted Benpack. They might send me some, but I haven't quite got there yet.
Yeah.
So those should fit in.
Did you plan for a drain in that?
No. I'm gonna try not to get too much water in there, but the floors are all radiant heated, which he designed. That's my brother Tim. So we did all the radiant heating, so the concrete's at like 77 degrees. So if I did drop some water in there, it'd probably evaporate fairly quickly.
It's this SP7X, right?
Yep. My initial layout actually had these 2 lifts straddling that slot drain, but it just felt like with the structure needed to support the slot drain, it kind of has some tabs that stick out, and then we wanted a radiant floor to run somewhat close to the lift. It just, I don't know, it just didn't seem like the right solution. So kind of at the last moment, I moved it over here. There's a couple different options that Morton gives you for interior, but I chose metal. You can do wood up to 8 feet, and then you'd have to like paint it or finish it. I chose to do the metal. Now, if you guys, I don't know if you could notice, but I kind of did the reverse scheme of outside. So outside has white walls with charcoal wainscoting. So I did white wainscoting with silver walls in here.
Did they do the insulation as well?
They did insulation, and that's probably one of the coolest parts about their building is the walls are 10.5 inches thick, which I'm not a construction expert, but I think that's thicker than like a normal stick-built house.
It's usually 8 inches exteriors.
8 inches? Yeah, so there's a big fat, there's a big fat insulation pad in there, and Tim and his company were working on the calculations for all the heating, and I think they were like, whoa, this place only takes 30,000 BTUs to heat when it's -10 outside, so I think that's pretty good.
So it has really good R value on the walls, like R38, the doors are R18, I think, and then the ceiling.
Yeah, when you stick build versus block build, you can insulate better.
Right. These are Matt's lights.
I get to check out all this stuff.
I deliver, son. I deliver.
22 lights. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So you're just getting it.
That's what we calculated.
The slab started at 40 degrees, and it was coming up about a degree every.
Yeah, so it's pulled down or something, so they just have case
To
on.
answer your question, that room in there that's not totally finished yet, that's gonna be like a gym and workout facility. So we're also putting a mini split in there to get a little bit of extra, like quicker heating and cooling.
Yeah.
This radiant is like forever to change temperatures.
Reverse setup, so he'll have drops.
Compressed air lines. Matt helped me with this. We've had a bunch of emails and a 90-minute phone call. So there's copper lines running throughout, 1 drop in the ceiling, and then I don't have the manifolds yet. They'll come on Monday.
Oh.
But we'll do a drop and the valve in a double manifold, and then I have 1 up in the ceiling. So that'll be that Cox with his cord and the air gun, and then the electrical reel will go up there, but I haven't mounted it yet. This is pretty slick. I just got this put in yesterday. I don't know if you guys have seen this before. It's so central back that lives in the PVC. You turn it on from out here, so there's a wire that traces the PVC and fires up in the mechanical room.
What is this? What brand is this?
So the hose and the system for hiding the hose, like this fixture and everything, it's called Hida hose. And then the actual motor that I have, you can choose a variety of motor brands, but this one's modern day MD, 715M, I think. So then to get it back in, you take off the lock and cover this.
Yeah, I guess I gotta add that to the store. Vacuum hasn't been on the list yet.
Yeah, so this one has like 150 inches of water lift, which I guess is one of the measurements of vacuum suction. And when I went to go purchase the motor, the guy was demonstrating it by putting this on a pile of gravel, and it just sucked the whole pile of gravel up. I was like, good enough for me. And then we did, I got one of those floor big ass fans with the intention of putting in the gym, but when it showed up, it was a lot bigger than I had pictured. So I don't know if I'll put it in the gym because it gets pretty overwhelming. This is on one, and it goes up to move some air.
There's a Liftmaster 8500, jack shaft operation, and these big 20-foot doors. So 18 by 10. And the 8500s are rated to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
8500 with the jack shaft. My little brother Tim was noticing that the springs are a little different on that one versus these, but I think it's because that one's a horizontal mount and these are high lift. So I think it needs a little bit more spring energy.
Yeah.
And then these are, I have 3 car charger ports just for future proofing.
Yeah. How are you gonna get these in there?
Don't know.
Don't know yet.
I think I'm gonna rent, make, buy a gantry.
Actually, you know what would work if you just got a engine hoist.
Engine hoist is option. Being up in these mountain properties, a couple of my neighbors have tractors with forklifts.
Yeah.
So I might just put a strap on it and have a neighbor drop it in.
Yeah. So this will be the gym.
Yep. Gym area. This is gonna be drywalled, so this is gonna be a little bit different look than the rest. I don't really know what I'm gonna do in here yet, other than this is gonna be a wall of mirrors.
Yeah.
And we'll just have some workout equipment in here with a mini split system up there.
So without the gear, would Morton bill $110 a square foot, something like that? Without all the stuff.
The building, so it's 2,300 square feet.
Yeah.
The building, there's so many different options for the
Right,
building,
I know
but mine
that.
was 122,000.
Yeah.
So somebody could divide that by 2,300 and see.
Shoot, that wasn't too bad.
So the one thing that I noticed when I was doing my design specking with Morton is, I don't know if this is true in Florida, but in Colorado, the cost increased rapidly as the height of the building increased because you had wind load and snow load differences. So like if I went to 16 feet instead of 12 feet, the distance between these columns had to shrink and the whole cost went up by like 20%.
So this the whole building's 12, peaks at 12?
Walls are 12, peaks at 13 and a half.
Got it. It's perfect.
Yep. So
Gives you all the height you need.
2-story, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you could ask about that, because they didn't tell me. I found when I was working with them that everything I had to do was like kind of figured out on my own. What about this? And then
That was the thing, yeah. Which is part of the fun too, you know. But yeah, you go into it and you gotta figure out like what concrete you're gonna use and all that.
exactly.
Is this 5,000 psi, 4-inch slab? What's the spec?
Yeah, I think it's either 4,500 or 5,000 psi. The slab actually ended up being closer to 6 inches.
Okay.
So it's dirt, then 2 inches of pink foam, then radiant floor tubing. So there's 2,300 feet of white PEX that run through here. Then on top of that, rebar spaced out at 2 feet, number 3 rebar, all through the building, and then they came in and poured the concrete.
But then you have to get a thermostat for it.
Concrete was 20 grand.
Yeah.
They poured first and then built it.
No, they build then
Built the
pour.
sticks. They put the actual sticks in the ground.
Yeah, big 4 foot deep footers, and based on the calculation of how much load each column has to support, the width of the diameter of the hole was anywhere from 18 inches to 36 inches. I thought that was kind of interesting that, you know, some of the ones in the corner were really big, whereas like one right in the middle was like didn't have to carry that much weight. Not everyone can fit in there, but the mechanical room has a lot of the guts. I got the Jenny compressor. What is it called? The W5B.
W80V, yeah.
And the Air Rev.
So it's like a 22 CFM, 5 horsepower, 80 gallon
What did it cost
monster.
for the air?
I'm sorry?
The air rev. What was the cost of the dryer?
They're 2,400.
That's it?
Yeah.
He bought it used.
I
yeah.
bought it on the marketplace.
He bought it from some dude who thought he wanted it, and then we realized that he didn't want it and sold it.
And then I'll maybe realize that too.
The disadvantage to the dryer is you have to plan for it. It doesn't just sense when you need it. You got to turn it on, let it run, let it cool down. So when you're doing anything critical, you go to fire it up, let it cool down to 32 degrees, purge your lines, and then you're running clean, dry air.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal, but it's like you don't need it to fill up your tires, kind of thing. It's when you're using your pneumatics or you're doing anything critical, you're going to blow off the whole car, blowing out pads. That's when you want to dry it.
Right.
I've seen some serious like people with copper tubing. They run like 7 or 8 stringers with like leaks or auto drains, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
It might be easier just to do you know what I mean?
You just do a dryer and you just purge it every so often, and yeah,
This is really cool.
Yeah. That I and my little brother have to do ourselves.
There's the central vac. There's our Jenny, and Jenny's me, the air dryer. So he's got to run the lines.
So when you finish, you immediately realize that you need more space, so they always tell you go bigger.
Yeah.
It's like an outlet everywhere in the air mounted because you're after the fact once you close up the wall.
Water.
So I mean,
Instantaneous water heater.
Well, yeah, so I've
But
seen
it's
the
a-
heater, so
it's
that's
called
a
the-
gas.
It's called the Norris Combi system. So it does the hydronic loop and the domestic loop. So this one's 180,000 BTUs, and it can do 120 on the hydronic for radiant heat.
Okay.
And it can do 60,000 BTUs for the domestic side. So if you're running a sink or taking a shower or using a faucet,
Yeah.
it can heat that water while it's also heating the radiant.
So it's doing the floor and any other water in the facility.
Yeah. So the manifold's back behind this door.
Oh, yeah, I have one of those Grundfos recirculators.
Yeah.
Is that recirculating for the whole system, or is that for the floor?
Just for the radiant floor.
Yeah.
And then the boiler has a pump inside of it for the.
that's clean. That's really clean. Clean setup.
Yeah, we.
I've seen.
Yeah. And then we've got 2 zone controls. So the gym has a thermostat. So it's just a little control system. So there's 2 thermostats that come into this little zone controller here. It's all through Uponor. So you have a 120 to 24 volt transformer, goes into this little control module, your thermostats tie in, and then all these thermal actuators run off of that. So we have 2 circuits that go to the gym and then 7 that go for the rest of the building.
Yep.
When the thermostat calls for heat, it just actuates these little thermal actuators, which presses on this little valve here and then lets
water
flow through the circuits. So I'm not quite done with all the controls, so we just have it all running wild
Loose,
right now.
yeah.
But all these snap on like that and then control the zones.
Now, are these the tube that's permanent, or is that able to? You can't pull that back through if you needed to replace it someday, right? I mean,
No, all this is cast in the concrete.
Yeah.
So each of these circuits is uninterrupted through the whole zone, so there's
Yeah.
no fittings or anything in the concrete. And then they just come up, and we just mounted it high enough that if it was our first time ever doing radiant, so
Yeah.
if we ever messed up, we're like,
You could-
worst case, we're
you could
cutting
trim
all
it and
these
move it
off,
down 12
moving
inches
this
or-
thing
yeah,
down,
yeah.
and then if we mess up again, we can move it down and move
Yeah.
it down. So we had plenty of
Yeah.
extra. So yeah, it worked out pretty well though. We ran all the radiant tubing in about 4 hours.
Yeah.
Circles in the floor, basically.
This is the radiant tubing layout. So we're standing right here. The manifold ended up being right there, so the circuits just kind of go like that. You try and design it so that the length of each circuit is relatively the same within about 50 feet. But then the manifold has little balance valves, so when you start the water, you can balance the circuits. Like this one's short, this one's really long.
I have a AMG
So
There's our slot drain. I haven't seen one of these in person.
Yeah, so I'm supposed to knock out the taps now that it's supported.
Yeah.
So I'm supposed to pound these out or grind them out. I did an option where it has a flush flow. So there's a PEX line that runs under the concrete into the mechanical room. So there'll be a valve. If there gets a bunch of gunk in there, it can turn on the valve and flush water.
Flush it out. Where does it run to? Runs to this chamber.
Yep, so it runs to this. So there's a catch basket in case you drop your ring or something. And then I have a plug in there right now just because we were constructing, but it seems like a pretty solid system.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean,
It's,
I've been. Did you already find this, or did we find this together? I don't remember.
I found it.
Yeah,
I found
I'd been talking to them for a while about my wash bay.
this.
You know, about putting this drain in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't think I heard it from you. I kind of found it through.
I never really talked about it, so it wasn't for me. I just didn't know if we talked about it or not.
Yeah, and then they have the top is stainless steel. The part that's cast in concrete is galvanized, but you can't see it.
Yeah.
And it's raw, so they told me if I wanted to, you know, obviously it still has the printing on it and stuff, so I can put like a wire brush on a drill and kind of give it that finish look. And then if you get some object in there that the water won't get, you have this paddle that twists, so it's the same shape in there as this.
Scoop it right down.
Yeah, so once I pull the tabs out, then you can scoop it all the way down.
Well, for us. Oh, those tabs will come out. They're meant just for install.
Yeah, they were to keep it from caving in when you pour the concrete, but now that it's set, you pop them out and just let it be. And then Matt helped me get this. This is Mosmatic Boom. Boom.
I didn't even see that.
Yep. Is this the one you have? You have a longer one. This is a 6'9".
No, yours is a 6 inch. I think I have a 6'3".
Okay.
I want to redo mine longer.
Yeah, that's not, I remember that.
Yeah, this one ended up being quite a thing because I was trying to figure out how to mount it. And Mosmatic sells a drop down, but it's not that long.
Yep.
So I did this what are those called? Those pipes?
Looks like EMT.
No.
The thread rod, or
Threaded rod.
yeah,
There's all thread in the
yeah, all thread, yeah, all
The
thread.
pipe's just a sleeve, and then there's all thread down.
Okay, I see.
Right, and so now it's situated such that this garage door goes over, hugs it just about 2 inches above it, and then whether or not the garage door is down, obviously, or up, you can swing the whole thing around.
But the bearings, I mean, the lots of companies make boom poles, but nobody makes it like that. I mean, this is like next level bearing swivel, amazing.
Unless you have a new solution now, I ordered some extra length of this, and then got some extra fittings to just make my own 15-foot whip. And then
that
Is
only
that Cobra Jet?
that only took me about 12 hours to get those
I
fittings.
appreciate that. This is my mop. So this wall, we ran out of material, and they were going to do it like kind of a workaround, but I said, don't do the workaround, I'll wait for new material. So that's why this wall's not finished, but it actually ended up being good because it gave me an opportunity to kind of like mock this up, which is very important, I'm finding.
Yeah.
So I mocked this. I bought all of his, what do you call it, the complete pressure washer wall solution.
So we did it without the piping.
Yeah, so I didn't get the piping, and I am going to try, we'll see if it works, my own little solution. I'm going to do full stainless steel piping.
What is that? Oh, that's not PEX. Those ones look like PEX.
No, it looks like
These?
you crimp them.
This is by a company called Viega, and it's a system that they call ProPress. So once you stick it in there, there's an O-ring. There's a really strong tool that crimps down on top of it. So this will go here. That'll come up. So I think you have 2 valves right here, right?
Correct. I have 3 valves, so yeah, one on the inlet outlet and then one on the top. This is a better way to do it.
So I tried, so this is a company called Bonami, and
It's like that, but stainless steel.
Yep.
right. Yeah, and they have so this is a 4-seat valve with a T port, so you can shut off any of the ports and open any of the other ones that you want as you spin it around. So I think I'm gonna have the water come up here, go out this way, hit that valve, and the reason I did a 3-way valve there is because I wanted a hose bib in case I ever wanted to hook up to the 1122.
Yep.
To the 1122. So that's going to be a hose bib, and then it comes up this way, cuts across, then it's going to go up to a T, and then I got this guy from Matt, and then another change that I did is I'm going to try to use this miniature 3-way valve to come out of the Krenzla into this and then run both the hose reel and the boom,
You switch between.
depending on which one I want.
Right. Because it won't run both simultaneously, but you can run one at a time.
We're in a heated garage in the wintertime. I'm on a well water. The water is not terribly cold, but it does sting the hands in the winter. So this is a hot-cold Prie mixing valve with the infamous bucket filler.
Oh, shoot, that's slick right there.
You like that?
Yeah, I do like that.
I took off.
We're gonna go in the garage design business together.
Did you tie that drain into that?
Yeah, so this is a floor sink. This was my brother Tim's idea. I didn't even think of putting this in here, but this is by Zern, and so this is a floor sink just to, like, I don't know if you want to like quickly dump a bucket in there instead of like trickling it in the slot drain. And then if this bleeds a little bit, it can go in there. And I'm going to put, I think, 4 of the shelves right there. There's a car charger over in the corner, 70 amp, just for future proofing. Yep. And then what else? What else do we got? This you guys have probably opened your pocketbooks to Matt also. This was my August RUPES bounty. So I went wanting to buy like one thing, and I got the whole microfiber package and everything. And this dude.
You gotta get some Sonic. Have you decided cabinets yet? Have you figured it out?
Probably do the Sonic.
Yeah.
So that wall over there.
In a couple of weeks, I'm gonna go view the MSS Plus.
Oh geez, don't talk to me about that.
I'll get you a good deal. You'll be the guinea pig.
I've done some work on my car, but there's only so much you can do, like rolling around on the pavement, you know. So now that I have all this equipment, I will probably start getting.
We'll be doing the same stuff I'm doing, you know.
Right.
Exhaust. Early pre-bus lines are gonna be here, and cabinets are gonna over there. Window height is perfect because it doesn't. The windows then don't interfere with the wall, get in your way. Interesting outlet covers.
Let me see if I can do this better. I let go again. Best I can do.
So we're doing some water drainage tests for the fun of it since we're all here. Seeing how Swiss Tracks will perform with, there's channels underneath the tile, so the water can run wherever it needs to run.
What did you say about 2 hours ago? It looks different. Inches all the way to the house. So the sewer runs over to the septic tank. The water comes from the house. So there's a well about 400 feet away, and the booster pump apparently does a good job, right? It's like 57 PSI. But I don't know. Let's see. No more wet feet?
Yeah.
There you go. So that's slot drain 9000 series.
Yeah, and
Sounds like a urinal. Sounds like you flushed the motor there. The things you think of, right?
but I mean that was what, 3 gallons? I mean that's 2 minutes of operating, you know.
Exactly.
And some of those gallons are gonna be sitting on your paint. So, I mean that's about as much, you know. You're not gonna get a whole lot more water than all the washing the car.
There's Matt's buckets that he gets in so much trouble for.
So obviously I'm back home, just editing the video and watching back of Nick's garage, and really in awe of all that goes into it. And I've talked about this a few times, but people quite often are questioning me, why haven't you built your garage? I've been talking about this for years. I mean, I guess technically I am Obsessed Garage, and I don't have a garage. I got this garage here at HQ, and I got the pole barn, but I don't have like a home garage. And part of it is because there's been this turmoil or this process in my life where I was doing wealth management and Obsessed Garage, and then I was transitioning out of it. And so this process of, okay, I'm going to build it, I'm going to build it, I'm going to build it, I finally came to the conclusion that I need to be in the right place in life to do it. And you can see, how much goes into it. I mean, Nick, thanks to him for being so gracious and sharing the process with us, sharing where he's at. Clearly he's working through the project, but this, he's a year or so into the design. Now he's 4, 5, 6 months into the work of putting it all together. It really becomes almost a full-time job, and I want to do it. I don't know when I'll feel ready, but I want to do it when I'm ready to do it. One, financially, and then secondly, I want to do it when I can focus on it. And this transition from a career to a business owner or business ownership has been a pretty steep learning curve, and I just wouldn't do as good of a job in building the garage and thinking about all of the stuff, but it's been fun. I've helped Nick. He did 99% of the work, but I helped, in product selection and thinking through some things. So I really appreciate him, and then others. I've done the same thing with many others. You're just helping think through, how are we going to do this? We need to get, 90% of the way there before you actually start production of the facility. So thanks again to Nick for sharing with us, being so gracious to invite us in. After the RUPES event, he invited us in to come and tour it and see where he was at. It fires me up to see it, to see a lot of the stuff that I've been searching, to see some of the stuff that he's found that I'm like, shoot, I need that too. It was good to see the slot drain. It's funny, we'd both, I didn't even know he was considering a slot drain. I've been talking to the slot drain people. It's about $1,800 for that drain to put in my wash bay. Of course, I'll have to tear out the concrete and re-pour it. But yeah, it's really motivating to see that. So thanks to him for bringing us along. But anyway, more stuff like this. I do a garage or two every day where I'm helping people think through what products, and I'm so appreciative that people involve me in that process, pulling from some of this crazy. I'm sure that will get bigger and bigger. My vision is to eventually have a CAD person on staff that I can actually mock and draw garages very specifically, kind of like if you've ever seen the Fixer Upper on HGTV, where the games, they now clearly have somebody on staff that draws up that mock. My vision would be to have something similar to that for garages, and then share with people how that process is done. So anyway, that's a look into a Morton custom garage and built-in. We'll call it OG Spec. That's almost identical to the way it is, pretty much identical to the way that I would have done it. So anyway, thanks for watching this, and this is I think that is Obsessed Garage or Crazy Level. So thanks to Nick, and stay tuned for more crazy. I'll have more updates and share with you more stuff like this in the future. Because what happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the